Hey Titus, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just adjusting the level here, but you sound great coming in, so that's perfect. So things
Oh,
are
good.
well.
Things are great. Things are great. How about yourself?
Things are good, man. I'm talking to the man in black. I'm very excited. I was hugely obsessed. but, but I mean, who wasn't, right? I'm sure you still get stuff probably on a daily basis.
I think that's something that will follow me forever. That's just that the enormity of that show and its success. And just the fan base. Yeah, I will forever be the man in black, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Did okay for Johnny Cash? I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we'll start there. Is that something you want as an actor, to be known? Well, I guess obviously to be known, to be remembered, but I mean, given the fact that you play so many characters every time, and I'm sure, everyone has this problem. We see you as that person as opposed to maybe the character from time to time. Is that something that has plagued you?
No, not really. I think that, part of it is that, there's a certain amount of shelf life in some shows, and it's not like I've been on a show that's run for 6 or 7 seasons. So I've never really been, ultimately pigeonholed, as being one guy. And that's sort of the blessing of playing, a plethora of different characters on television shows and films. You never get sort of, it's not to say that people don't want you, or want one to repeat performances. They'll see you in something that they've admired, and then they'll want you to bring that same sort of gravitas to another character. And sometimes the similarities are a little bit, such that it's not really necessarily of interest. But I feel very blessed that way, that I've been able to bounce around the map, and I just have been fortunate that the writing, the creation of those characters has been strong, so that it really sort of stays in people's minds.
And what do you look for in a role? What entices you, I guess, about the recent work you've been doing?
I mean, I'm obviously, the writing is paramount, and just something that's really multi-layered. I like characters that have complexity to them, which is not to say that I haven't played characters that are monosyllabic and not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But there's if the writer has done a good job, they can take that, what seems to be on the exterior, is one thing, and layer it enough so that as an actor I'm able to kind of get in there and really create something that bounces off the page, take it and kind of make it my own, and expand on that. So I my hope is always that the next character is going to be something that's going to be a new experience for me, and that it'll be something that I haven't necessarily done ad nauseum, to a point where I feel like there's nothing I can do to kind of reinvent the wheel. So I look for something that's going to challenge me and hopefully make me a better actor.
Like what? What would challenge you? What kind of roles are you trying to seek out?
Well, I would say that I'm always challenged to, and I would even draw the analogy of like a jiu-jitsu match when I work with David Milch, because the depth of his writing and the depth of the characters that he creates are so complex, and sort of constantly in a state of flux. That for me has always been the most challenging work, certainly that I've done in the television arena. Those characters are never what they seem on the outside, and so I love that journey, or I should say the journeys that I've taken with David, through NYPD Blue and Brooklyn South and Big Apple and Deadwood. Those are enormous gifts. I mean, it's such a privilege to work with a writer like David. And so I would say that's been very challenging stuff. And also to take a character that might seem as one thing on the page, but to really try to make it personal in that, to make it collaborative, to kind of bring my ideas to the table and get together with the writers and say, what about this? Maybe what if we tried this or tried that or didn't do this? That's the other thing that I try to find really collaborative, open relationships in the work.
Was it like that a lot on Deadwood? Because I've heard you say that there weren't completed scripts before you began shooting. It was kind of, here you go, an hour beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly there, but the quality of the writing never suffered. That's just the way that David works. And
I'd love to hear about that. That's so fascinating. It must keep you on your toes as an actor.
Yeah, I said to somebody, it's kind of like Navy SEAL training, for an actor. Once you've worked with David, and you just, it changes you as an actor completely. You kind of get out of your head with all the things that really have no place being there when you're working, and are able to really deal with the task at hand, which is, look, for some people it might be the difficulty of memorizing such, difficult and intelligent dialogue in a short period of time, but it forces you to make very, very quick decisions as an actor. So with that lack of time, or I should say the luxury of time, I think that in the process of making quicker decisions, it's better because you are on your toes, and it's a much more organic process. It's not over rehearsed. I mean, you're going to say it letter perfect, but your interpretation and time is somewhat limited. So you really have to just be clear and sharp and jump in and service the writer, which I think is just makes for more interesting performances.
Are you a rehearsal actor? Do you enjoy rehearsing?
Oh, I like rehearsing. I do like rehearsing, but I like to rehearse, only so much, and then kind of leave it alone, because I think that when you over rehearse something, it really does. It kills one's ability to be able to be just very present in the moment. If you've sat there and you've clocked out every single thing, then you're just going to be kind of doing it in a rote fashion. Whereas, if you learn your words and you know what your character's doing, then you can just kind of live and breathe, and it all kind of happens naturally. And I think it allows for a better sense of play and more interesting outcome.
When do you get into character? Is it when director says action? Is it beforehand? Is it in the trailer? When do you feel you're, I guess, Rob in Promised Land or Bates in Argo and something like that?
I spend time that I take a script, which is something that I learned from David Mamet, who was a teacher of mine when I was at New York University.
Really?
And I learned from him how to really deconstruct a script completely, analyze the text and break it down into its, purest form, and then kind of move, beat to beat to beat through the entire script. And that tool is invaluable to me as an actor. So that's part of my process, which is to really, really analyze and break down the script. And then from there, I kind of try to find the character. Try to find what the character looks like, how the character walks, how he speaks. A lot of that is kind of personal stuff that never translates into the performance in that that the audience has that knowledge. It's sort of what I would refer to as kind of a secret prop. I mean, you might even go to the prop master and say, I want to have a 38 snub nose in the back of my pants, and they say, but there's nothing in the script that says that this guy carries a 38. And you say, the guy carries a 38. just indulge me. Or a set of dog tags, underneath this guy's suit because for whatever reason, either in a conversation with a writer and discovering backstory to a character, maybe they served in the armed forces, and even though there's, no real reference to it in the script. It's just it's information that you're given. So it's all very, and I always sort of hesitate to talk too much about the process of acting, just because I think it's boring.
I find it fascinating, but yeah.
Well, I'm saying, as an actor, I mean, I never sit around and have conversations with other actors about acting or the process of acting. And I get why, look, I'm fascinated by the process that writers go through. And so and also directors of photography. I mean, I will drive them crazy because I'm like a 10-year-old kid in a candy store when I'm around them, because what they do to me is deeply intriguing. And I understand that one wants to maintain a level of mystery to what it is that we all do in our process, because, if it was easy, then everybody would do it.
Well, then we'll move on maybe to I mean, you've worked with Ben 3 times now, and Argo's nominated for everything. So maybe we'll discuss that and how his progression as a director has changed, at least in the scenes you've worked with him. Have you noticed a change, or has there been any differences to the way he approaches a scene?
Well, having worked with him on his first film, it never occurred to me that this was the first time Ben was directing a film, because, and I've said this many, many times, and I shot it from the mountain high, that he is an extraordinarily prepared director. He has the entire film in his head, and cut before he even starts to shoot it. And it's not to say that he will not deviate from his preconceived ideas of what he wants to do, but he is so prepared. And I would say the only change that I've seen in him is just that he just knows more. He knows more, but there was never a lack of knowledge in the first place. He also just seems to be more and more comfortable in that role as the director. Although once again, I would take that back and say I never saw him in any level of discomfort as a director. It just, to me, it's who he is. It's something that he was always supposed to do, just like he's supposed to be an actor and he's supposed to be a writer. I mean, he is that thing. And as far as the progression is, I guess it's just sort of the scope of the films. Although I think that Gone Baby Gone has, an enormous scope, as does The Town, and Argo has kind of an epic feeling to it. To me, it almost feels a little bit like a David Lean film. You know what I mean? It's broader than the other films, and it's also it's a departure in that it's not the seedy kind of underworld of Boston, but it just, is just more irrefutable proof that he is pound for pound, without question, one of the best directors in Hollywood. And I don't just mean of his generation; I mean of Hollywood, of history. He's an astoundingly gifted, brilliant guy, and I just happen to be very privileged and blessed to have started this journey with him, and my wish to continue to do so, because I think I do some of the best work of my career when I'm with him. He inspires you to do well. He gives you direction as an accessory and not as an obstacle. And he's very trusting, and he's also a wonderful human being, very, very bright, gregarious, and deeply funny. too, and just immense. He's just immensely talented. I could blow smoke all day long, and he would, if he was here, he would be rolling his eyes and saying, "Oh, shut up, go on, go on, go on." But that's how I'm very passionate about the work that I've done with him.
Is there something that an actor brings to directing that a director coming from film school or just doing indie films, I guess the way things are done now, is there something that an actor brings to that role that maybe a director wouldn't see?
Well, I think that because Ben understands the language of actors, because he is an actor, he can be very, very specific, very articulate, I have kind of a shorthand with him. I mean, he just gives me a look, or, sometimes it's less than a sentence if he has an idea. And I know exactly what he's talking about. And there are other times where it's my own, lack of, I don't know, either lack of intelligence or maybe lack of sleep at the end of the day when he's saying, "No, I just want you to walk to that spot, get to that spot, say the line quickly, and then go." And I'll end up doing, 4 takes, and he's laughing at me, and I'm going, "Why are you laughing at me?" And he said, "I just want you to step to the mark. This is not about performance. This is totally for you to indulge me in this shot. Just do it." And I do it. And I'm always surprised that I am so malleable, because it's not necessarily my nature. But with Ben, I did, if he said, "No, I want you to wear, the Mork suspenders and a red nose," I'd say, "You know what? That works for me. That's fine," because I have complete trust and faith with him. That, and he's the first to say too, if he leads you down a path on something and it doesn't work, he'll say, "Yeah, it was just an idea, but it doesn't work. So I take that back." He's very humble and self-effacing.
You mentioned Mork in there. Got me thinking. You got to play a little humor with Francis in Promised Land. I watched it the other day. And how does the process differ from working with Ben, or is it similar to working with Gus? Like how do they differ? How are they similar?
Well, there was certainly Gus didn't say to me, "I really want you to be kind of funny." It just, part of it is Gus creates an atmosphere of complete openness, and so it allows you, in the same way that Ben does, that it just allows you to kind of breathe and be present in the moment in those scenes. And then, I'm looking across the counter. It's Fran McDormand, whose work I've loved since Blood Simple. He's also extremely bright, very beautiful, very sexy woman, and incredibly charismatic and hysterically funny, and she's a great listener. And so, it's when you're working with that caliber of actor, it's just, and Krasinski and Matt and Rosemary and all those people on that thing. I mean, you just kind of show up and swing, and do your thing, because you're operating at the highest level of your game, because you're in there with the pros from Dover.
Do you find it easy to jump from character to character, or does to get back into it, if you're working on several things at over the course of a year, if you have to go to reshoots or if you have to go back to a television show or that kind of thing, do you find it easy to jump from character to character? Is it easy to get back into the person you were a week ago?
Yeah, I do. And I actually, I've experienced that level of schizophrenia in this business. I mean, when I was shooting The Town, I was also shooting The Good Wife, Lost, and Sons of Anarchy. So that's really just kind of, it's just a switch that you flip, I mean, I'd worked enough on those characters and knew who they were, so that it wasn't it wasn't difficult. It's also because the writing is really good, and it's consistently good. So I kind of responded well to that. That being said, if I had my druthers, I'd like to do a series, for a few years and pop a 2 or 3 films a year. That's what I'd like to do, only because, that kind of gypsy traveling thing is hard on your system, and it's also I have 3 children, and I want to be with them, when I'm not working. I want to be able to be with my kids, and that was while I'm very grateful for that experience. It was disruptive to a certain degree to the kind of the harmony that I want my children to feel, that their dad is present, and because I'm very much a hands-on father, and so that was the biggest struggle for me. It was not the characters; it was just being away from my family. That which is always the case, but that particular, going from Boston to Hawaii to Los Angeles and back to New York and then back to Boston, and it was just a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm really sorry to hear about Beth as well.
Thank you.
But
that's
a true talent.
Yeah, really, on so many levels. Just the love of my life and the most beautiful woman, physically and internally, that I have ever known. And I had the great privilege of having her as my confidant, my lover, my best friend, the mother of my children, and so it is in that way that I continue and move through life, that I honor her, because that's she was completely supportive of my career. She had more say in or I should say more contribution in decisions to do certain jobs than anyone else. I trusted her taste and her opinions, and she was extremely helpful to me in navigating certain aspects of this business that, as an actor, I think it's stuff that's somewhat sort of out of our understanding of responsibility. And with her being a producer, she really enlightened me when and educated me, very much, with her wisdom about how the business worked and what was necessary and what wasn't necessary, and it allowed me to be a freer, certainly less narcissistic person in those moments where that can creep up on one. She was the love of my life, and I miss her every single second of the day, but I honor her with strength and the care and the raising of our children, because and also choosing good work, and she was completely instrumental in my going to do Promised Land, which because the diagnosis came days after I was offered Promised Land, and I turned to her and said, "Can't do this movie." And she said, "You're crazy if you don't." She said, "It's a great script. It's a wonderful character. It's a departure for you, and it's about a subject that is profoundly disturbing. Mm-hmm. The dismantling of our environment, for fuel, and which she believes strongly in, which I do as well, and she just said, "You got to do this movie. I feel really strongly about it." And I said, "I got to go to Switzerland with you and be with you at the clinic while you're being treated." And she said, "You need to go and do this movie, and if it goes sideways, I'll call you and you get on a plane. But I'm telling you, I want you to do this film." And that was the only, and believe me, the process of shooting, working with that and the balance, was inordinately difficult. There's no question about it. But it was her encouragement and her bravery that inspired me to kind of, knuckle down and enjoy the experience of shooting that film in the face of such tremendous, uncertainty and anxiety, which is why, my first time seeing the film, I so thoroughly enjoyed the film and all the work. But it was tinged with a kind of longing, and sadness that she didn't get to see the film, because I know she would be not only proud of me, but very, very impressed and proud of the film and the intelligence that it portrays and the issue that it addresses, which is deeply serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how to segue out of that. But you were up in our country shooting Poker Night, because I'm in Canada.
Yeah, digging it, man. I was my first time on Victoria Island.
And what'd you think?
It was beautiful. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I can do without that freezing cold rain that is bone penetrating. But I should probably have a Canadian passport. I work in Canada so much.
What else shot up here?
Oh, I mean, I've shot multiple pilots in Canada. I shot the television series Falcone. I shot in Toronto. I lived in Toronto for 6 months. I've shot a ton in Vancouver. I shot a pilot last year for NBC called Midnight Sun that I did with Julia Stiles, which sadly didn't see the next, which it really should have been, but because it was a really, really brilliantly written thing, and it was so original. We've never seen anything like it on television before. And Julia Stiles, such a great actress, and a beautiful person. And I know my way around Vancouver. I'll tell you that. And Victoria was great. Victoria was really, I brought my daughter on location with me, and she loved it. She found some dollhouse store, 3 blocks away from our apartment that she frequented and would just go in there like it was a museum, and just spend hours fantasizing about, creating. Believe me, if she'd had her way, my house would be like a dollhouse tenement slum, just filled with furniture and people. But I really liked working up there, and the experience at that film was really had a tremendous amount of weight only, and it was the first time that I'd returned to work since Beth's death, and I was very nervous. I didn't know, I guess it would be sort of like an opera singer with a case of laryngitis. I didn't know where I could muster the courage or the strength to do it, and yet I got there. Such a wonderful crew, great director, and there was Ron Perlman and Ron Eldar and Giancarlo Esposito, who are all friends of mine, longtime friends and colleagues, and I just looked across the table and I went, I'm going to be better than okay. I'm going to have a great time. And so I did. And, it was jumping off the building, but those three guys were holding the net. And so, I didn't hesitate for a second to take the leap, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think the film is really going to be good. Brutal, not for the faint of heart, but wonderful ensemble of actors and a really tight script, and with a lot of really, really original twists and turns. I think it will do very well. That's my hope.
What is it? What is it about? What do you play in it? Who do you play?
I play a detective. It's about a group of detectives who have been brought into this small town to kind of help corral some of the crime that's been happening there. And so there's sort of this all-star team of detectives that get together, and they play poker together, and they tell war stories, and they've brought this young detective under their wing and included him in this process as sort of a tutorial. And my relationship to him is that he's been dating my daughter secretly, which is a big no-no. And so I'm sort of forced to be, against my own will and better judgment, to be a mentor to this young detective who has to navigate some serious hurdles. And it was just a lot of fun and a great, really cool character, kind of a sort of a tortured guy in a way. But that's sort of a simplistic description. But I really enjoyed playing that character and making that film. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
A lot of fun.
What's next? What's next on your agenda?
I'm just, it's that time of year for pilot season. So I'm looking to find the right fit. Because I really, I'm very game to do another series and to do it in a series regular capacity, rather than, a hired gun. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to kind of plant my feet into something and do it for a while. And so, just reading stuff and trying to find, the right thing. I was doing the last ship, for TNT that Michael Bay was producing, and I had to pull out because my wife was dying, and then literally I did a day of work and she passed away 4 days later.
Jeez.
So my intuition, thank God my intuition was right in that I had very little time left with her, and that I needed to be with her and not on a film set. Mm-hmm. But I'll work with Michael Bay. I'll work with those guys again, happily, and would jump at the opportunity. And I really look forward to seeing the full realization of that, because it was a great script, and a really good ensemble of actors and a wonderful director, and Michael Bay, he ain't no slouch himself. So that's where I am, and at the center of all that is raising my daughter on my own, only in that the absence of Beth's tremendous wisdom, but my kids are doing well. They're navigating this loss with a real kind of maturity and resilience, and I kind of stand in awe of their ability, and hence I'm inspired by that, and have to look into myself. But that's where I am. I'm Beth would say to me, tomorrow's another day. So tomorrow's another day, and that's what I do. It's there really are no words, right? You just one soldier's on, in the absence of such an incredibly staggering loss, and you find a way to make that is unbearable, bearable, and look to the light to be able to move to that place where you can return to the fond memories and the joy, right, and the participation, and the rekindling of that joy.
Absolutely, man. And every day.
I don't mean to be morose. I don't mean to be morose at all.
But that's what you're going through right now. So I understand. That's we always close interviews out with something called 5 questions, 5 quick questions, 1-word answers.
Hit me.
Hitchcock or Kubrick?
Kubrick.
Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
Christopher Walken or Al Pacino? Because I know you do both impressions.
Oh, that's tough. Pacino.
Role you're most proud of?
Silas Deadwood.
Cool. And in 1 word, Titus Welliver.
Silly.
That's a good one. Thank you very much.